What is up, everybody? We are back here today with another video, and in today's video we are in the world of old school RuneScape. As you can see, we're chilling on the bridge here in Lumbridge. Yeah, we're going to do some free to play fishing runs because I'm too lazy to pay for the membership right now. We're also going to talk about the time that I recorded with Robert Lang. If you don't know who Robert Lang is, Robert Lang is this legendary music studio owner, producer in the world of rock and roll. I might put some stuff on the screen about him. He's worked with people. He's known with working with Nirvana, being friends with Foo Fighters and Kenny G, and I'll talk a little bit about the things I saw at his studio here in a minute. But before we get into all that, I want to give a little bit of backstory because there was a lot that kind of happened that led up to that moment, to getting to the studio with Robert Lang and recording an album with Robert Lang ultimately. These are one of those memories in life that will never go away. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just so lucky and grateful that I even had the opportunity to even go to his studio in the first place. So we'll get all into that. I'll talk about the album we recorded, some of the songs. I'll talk about basically everything. And yeah, so kind of how it happened was I think it was around 2021 September 2021. It was around my birthday. I posted on my Instagram bio that I was looking for a drummer and I was trying to start a band. I've always started bands through my life up until this point, but it was a while. I took a break for a while and then I wanted to start a new band. And so I posted on my Instagram bio that I was looking for a drummer, and I had a friend hit me up that I've known since high school. And this is a few years after high school. But anyways, he hits me up and he's like, "Are you trying to jam?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, let's jam." So he shows up to the studio. He shows up to my studio and we start jamming. We start making music. It was around my birthday. So there was one, I remember one day we went out and got drinks and played music. I showed him some of the solo songs I was working on. I just wrote on my guitar. We really vibed together and we ended up jamming a lot together. You know, the band only lasted for, I would say, a little over a year. Yeah, after that, we just kind of stopped jamming. Life stuff kind of happened and the band broke up. But our band, Penny Richer, that was the name of the band, Penny Richer. When we started it, we were just making songs, just to make songs. Like, we didn't really expect to record any album besides what we could do at my own studio. That's what we kind of did. We recorded some songs at my studio. We recorded some demos. Yeah, like, we weren't popular or anything. We just got together and jammed like for about, I would say it was maybe like 6 months straight. We had about 8 songs, a few covers, and we probably had a couple dozen recordings or whatever. So it wasn't anything serious. We weren't doing anything crazy or anything like that. We were just having fun. We were just creating music. And then one day, out of nowhere, the drummer, I'm not gonna mention his name in this video, but shout out to the drummer of Penny Richard. He mentions, "Yo, I know Robert Lang." And I'm like, "What?" Just like, we've been jamming for like 6 months and then he just mentions that he knows Robert Lang out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? He's like, and I was like, "Okay, dude." I didn't really believe him at first. And he was like, "Yeah, dude, let's call Robert Lang and let's see if we can record our songs with him." And I was like, "Okay, you can just call him, bro." You know what I'm saying? So this dude, I remember we were sitting in the studio and this dude literally calls Robert Lang, just a normal phone call. And he picks up, bro. He picks up the phone. And I just remember listening to them talk. He was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in a band with so-and-so." And he's like, "Oh, you're in a band with so-and-so." And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, have you guys played any gigs?" And at that point, we only played one gig in the beginning, which was only to our friends and family. But he was like, up in that point, that was the only gig we played. So he was like, "All right, well, I'll tell you what, play some more gigs and then we'll talk about recording an album." And then that was the end of the conversation. But even just to have a little bit of conversation with Robert Lang was mind-blowing, bro. That was one of the most mind-blowing things that I've ever experienced in my life. So some time passes and we get a gig. I know some people that were hosting gigs in Seattle. So I hit them up and they get us on a gig in Seattle. And the drummer, he calls Robert Lang again. And he's like, yo, we got a gig. Do you want to come to our gig? And I don't know if it was a text or a call. It might have been a text. I just remember the drummer. I just remember him saying that Robert Lang said that he needs to get out more and do more things like that. But he is interested in recording an album with us. And I don't know why he decided that, but we worked out this deal to record an album in like a month and a half after the gig. And mind you, we've only been a band for 8 months. Here we are playing one single gig, going on to record an album with Robert Lang, our album with Robert Lang. And we're complete nobodies. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're nobodies. Like, growing up, Robert Lang was a legend, bro. If you didn't know Robert Lang and you were a musician in Washington, you were completely out of the loop. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember talking about Robert Lang and like dreaming of going to Robert Lang's studio when we were like 16, you know, like 17, making like rock music in our garage and stuff in high school. This was kind of a big moment. And so we play our gig in Seattle at the 4th Ave Tavern or something, or 10th Ave Tavern or something like that. I forget where it was, but we play our gig and we kill it, yo. We kill it. We got a little unsynced in one song, but the rest of the gig, it was like just absolutely carnage, dude. Like, it was all recorded. It's on the drummer's Facebook. I still go back and look at that video sometimes just because how beautifully we played that night. We absolutely destroy this gig. We do such a great job, and then we start focusing on the album. The album's coming up. We only had 2 days to record the album. We worked out a deal. It was, I think, under $1,000 to record the album and get a rough mix of the album and then ultimately post it on the internet. So it didn't cost too much in the grand scheme of things, considering that he books out major record label bands for months on end. So that was really cool. The time to record the album rolls around. Before we recorded with Robert Lang, there was another studio person that I knew called Rare Faction Recording. And the owner of that, basically I recruited him as our bass player for the album. I met him through an event in downtown Olympia, and I was like, yo, we're recording this album with Robert Lang. We need a bass player. Do you want to play with us? And he was like, hell yeah. So we recorded one song with him. I became good buddies. We ended up recruiting him as a bass player for the album. At this time, I'm meeting Claro, Snail Mail. So yeah, I'm kind of backtracking here a little bit because, you know, in April and March, I met Claro. And Claro was a huge inspiration of our song Claro. And then the next month I met Snail Mail, and Snail Mail to me is literally like, I don't even want to Snail Mail to me is literally, Snail Mail is like the greatest ever, you know what I'm saying? And so those two meetings right there kind of really inspired me before going into the studio with Robert Lang. It was like I met Snail Mail, and then like 10 days later we're in the studio with Robert Lang. The time to record with Robert Lang comes around. It's about the dates, April 28th or so. So we get me, the drummer, and the bass player. We all drive up to Shoreline, Washington, to his beautiful studio. And I don't know if you can see pictures of it. You can find pictures of them. I might put some on the screen. I don't know. But I just remember we get to this beautiful house on the ocean. You can see the ocean from the house. And then there's like a big staircase. We walked all the way up to the staircase. And then there he is, Robert Lang. Yeah, I just remember walking into his studio and seeing the actual studio and seeing a real studio. Like, my studio is like a makeshift studio. His studio is the studio you see on TV. You know what I'm saying? I won't forget that. And then I walked into his like lounge area upstairs where the artists can like chill out. This fool has like 40 gold records, like 10 30 platinum records, triple platinum records, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, Candlebox, like Lil Wayne, Juice World was scheduled to go there, you know what I'm saying? Like all the legends were in there, bro. And that point in my life, I never felt so somewhere that I belonged. Because up until that point in my life, I never knew what it was like to be anything. And it was at that point where I saw all those gold records and saw all those platinum records, and I was like, yo, like, this is me. This is who I am supposed to be, and this is where I am supposed to be, yo. So, anyways, I'll continue on this story here. We leave the studio to go to our hotel. The hotel isn't letting us sleep in our room because the card wasn't in our name. So we ended up calling Robert Lang, and then Robert Lang was graciously like, hey guys, if you guys need a place to stay, just come and stay at the house. And we were like, no freaking way. So me and the drummer, the first night, stayed at Robert Lang's house, slept on his couch. I remember I specifically slept under the Nirvana triple platinum record. You know, the Nirvana it was triple platinum, guys. I don't know how else to. You gotta be one of the biggest bands or acts in the world to get these records, you know what I'm saying? So I slept under that triple platinum record, woke up the next day. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning when we started recording. We recorded our first song, Clairwin, which was our, like, what we thought was like going to be our biggest hit or whatever. We recorded Clairwin, we recorded Nine Lives, we recorded the whole album. You can actually find the album on streaming on all platforms under Penny Richard Clairwin. And the backstory of Clairwin really was like, you know, it's kind of like before Clairwin, it was about cocaine, and it was about one of my ex-girlfriends and my addiction with my struggle with addiction. So, but then once I met Clairo, it changed my world because there was a point in time in her career where she went through a transformation and people thought she was on drugs. So I kind of took that and just made it into a metaphor. Clairwin, where's my Clairwin? You know what I'm saying? So that's what I thought was going to be our biggest hit. So we recorded Clairwin. We did all the drum tracks the first day. Then we did all the bass, and then we went to sleep. Woke up the next day in the studio again. All three of us this time, including the bass player. And then I did the vocals. And I just remember for the vocals, we were watching Lil Peep. We were watching Snail Mail. We were watching Nirvana. We were watching basically everyone that we loved, you know what I'm saying? Like everyone, like those were just, I love way more artists than that. Those are just some contemporary artists that I love, you know? Yeah, so we recorded all the vocals in one day, and I was singing my heart out for literally all 48 hours that we were in the studio, you know what I'm saying? And there was one little hiccup where the drummer left and didn't give Robert Lang all the money that he was supposed to. I think he like forgot or something, but so Robert Lang came down and halted the recording session for a little bit and was like, yo, where's the money? And I was like, dude, I'm just here to record. Like the drummer, he's kind of there. Everyone else around me is dealing with the money. I'm just here to record. And he's like, you know, there was one point where Robert Lang told me that he really liked my vibe, you know, like it wasn't like everybody else, you know, like he could tell that I really, really loved music, and not just love music, but love creating music. I could tell because after we recorded the album, Robert Lang hitting me up like nonstop. He was like, Blaze Link, Devin, like we need you, man, in the studio. We need you. Madonna's coming to the studio. Like I want you to meet Madonna, bro. And then he was nonstop hitting me up. And I told him I'd send him some pictures of my studio. Never did, and we kind of like, I wouldn't say had a falling out, but we just kind of stopped talking after that, just because he wanted me to be a student, but to be a student you have to pay, and I didn't have the thousands of dollars that he was kind of asking for me, but he knew that I had massive potential as a recording artist, and I do, and I know I don't ever doubt myself. That's what I am and who I am. that's basically gonna wind down this video. You know, we released the album that December, and then the band kind of fell out the next year in 2023 after I had psychosis again. You know, we tried playing, we tried jamming together again, but it's hard being a band, guys. It's hard. If you've ever done it before, you'll know how hard it is. But yeah, guys, it's getting to that time that we should wind down the video. I'm about like 20 minutes in, talking 20 minutes in straight. So that was the time I recorded with Robert Lang and some of the memories I had. I could go on and on and on about the time of life that was. Man, I love music, guys. I love it so much, and I'm just so happy that I can still make music and all that. And I'm just glad I can keep making music and keep rocking out, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and peace out. Peace!